want to just stop for a moment and reflect on the work that we've done as a community, the work that you've done as a community. And many of you in the room have been involved in different aspects from when the first collaborative came together. There was work on hand hygiene, which we did drive across Northeast Florida, into the 95th percentile in all of our organizations. We did some work on narcotic prescribing. And then we did a fair amount of work on the communication in healthcare. And for those of you that have been here years before, this is not going to be a repeat of what that program really looked like. You'll hear bits and pieces of it. But I've asked the panelists today to reflect on a different question, and that is, how does this work take on a bigger meaning? How does this work really change the culture of our organizations? How does it help create many of the things that Dr. Leonard was talking about as really the groundwork to really move into a different way we deliver health care? The other thing I'd like to reflect on is there's many different initiatives that were started, but this one keeps coming back, and our frontline caregivers are at the table from every single institution, working together and working on this problem. And why is that? What really allows us to break the barriers down? It's not HCAHPS scores. I don't believe it is. I don't believe it's anything we just want to focus on patient experience. I think there's a deeper meaning behind the work, and to me, I think as I see the different institutions and their teams working, it really brings us back to the core of really why we became a healthcare professional. And it allows us to actually put some joy back into our work, which is something that is often lost when we don't go back to that core. So for some reason, these people with their teams keep coming back and keep working on this critical piece. And I think it is one of the ways we can change the culture. So that's the theme today. We have 4 of our healthcare institutions represented here. Commander Petrovani will be sharing the Navy story, and particularly what is the communication program done in the context of really a robust Team STEPS program, which is another teamwork training program, and how does that fit together in really their institution. Dr. Perdikis from Mayo Clinic will share a little bit more of the longitudinal journey of how do you take this work to the next step and to the next step, and how do you sustain it. Dr. Patel will hopefully share his thoughts on what was this like to take this to a pediatric hospital, to families, to worried moms and dads, and how did that spread to the Nemours health system. And Dr. Rathore will represent the University Health System in Jacksonville, University of Florida Health System, and really share with us some thoughts on how does this really diffused to the residency fellowship training programs in addition to the staff. So with no further ado, welcome, and Commander will take them in that order, and you can start your presentation. Thanks. Welcome.
I need to move along the slides. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm Commander Andrea Petrovani, representing Naval Hospital Jacksonville, and currently I'm the officer in charge of Branch Health Clinic Jacksonville. And today I'm going to just share a little bit about Team STEPS journey from its inception of 2009, where we are today, and how we're really working very hard each and every day to promote effective communication, to promote efficiency in practice, and certainly number one priority is our patient safety. So this is Naval Hospital Jacksonville. Our priority is to heal our nation's heroes. It's that simple, and all others entrusted to our care. So our focus again is really truly battlefield, but also all those who are beneficiaries. So Team STEPS, many of you have probably heard of the Team STEPS program. and we have adopted it. It's now officially a Department of Defense program. And it's strategies and tools to enhance performance and patient safety. So well in the lines of teams, how we get teams together to function effectively, to communicate effectively, so that we're really doing what's best for our patients. And it's based on leveraging nearly 30 years of research in military aviation, nuclear power, and industry to acquire, again, team competencies and teamwork. Again, I mentioned the official Department of Defense Patient Safety Program, and it does address those Joint Commission patient safety factors, the sentinel events, near misses, errors, et cetera. Highlighting communication is what I'm going to focus on, because as we know, communication, again, is something that we think we do very well, but we find out what we do not. And so we have to continually work on our communication, and again, just not communication, but effective communication. How are we doing that to bring the teams together? Leadership, obviously, is paramount and very important, as well as our human factors, so those factors for making errors, that we are humans and those things will happen, hopefully not to the detriment, and culture. And we do have the performance, knowledge, and attitudes in terms of the team steps triangle. So we have 4 teachable, learnable skill set or principles. Again, team communication, you'll hear that word over and over again, and it's for reason and the redundancy. There's method to the madness for the communication piece, because it is critical. Leadership, absolutely. Mutual team support, that respect that we spoke about. Having the teams to be able to, in a situation, feel empowered to speak up. And situational monitoring. Watching each other's back, having each other's back so that the team is, the most basic thing is bring the team together is trust. So you have that trust, you have that respect, you have that mutual understanding. And again, fostering team approach, all members empowered to speak. And in the military, we do have a rank structure. So there's always a very fine line there in how we really empower those that are junior to say, oh, if you see something, please speak up. And that's where we use the acronyms, CUS, I'm uncomfortable, I'm concerned, this is a safety issue. So all those strategies and tools that we have to use with the Team Steps program that we incorporate in our day-to-day practice. And it also very nicely complements with the care and communication, which you will hear about more later in the program. So focus on the key principles. Culture. All about a culture change. And how easy it is to change culture. Not so much. It does take some time. Some studies, 3 to 5 years. It all depends, again, on your team and how the trust is developed and how that mutual bond as far as the team and say, let's go do it, one team, one fight. We use Carter's 8 steps to culture change, and certainly that sense of urgency when we initially rolled out Team Steps. You got to get those players in, you got to get the buy-in, and you have to keep going at it each and every day. This is what we're doing. And so that definitely lead into the point of that new culture. And that's, again, a process, and it's a consistent process. So that sense of urgency needs to be there. So our rollout in May of 2009 was the initial rollout, and that was following quite some intensive training, train the trainer, so the preparation prior to, and the areas that we selected was the main operating room, labor and delivery, the mother-infant unit, and a few months later, the emergency department. And as you can see, these are just snapshots of our various teams in action. As mentioned earlier, conducting briefs. So getting that, setting the tone for the day. Each member of the team accountable for. It's a great opportunity to see, put eyes on everyone. Again, opportunity to make sure your team members are ready for today. And that's really another checking each other out, checking that situational awareness or that situational monitoring. As well as conducting huddles. So when the opportunity presents itself, a team huddle. And sometimes we just go ahead and say we're huddling, which is perfectly fine, as long as we're coming together, communicating for the purpose of knowing what's taking place, setting the tone, so the expectations right off the bat is already set. And so again, if something unexpectedly happened, you'll huddle together and figure out, okay, which approach do we take, what process do we need, et cetera. And then the debrief. Very important, critical part of your day. What went wrong? What can we do better? How did this work? How's the team doing? An opportunity, again, to do it sooner at that time rather than later down 2 or 3 days when it really doesn't have as much of effect and impact. September 2010, we had enterprise-wide rollout, so the clinics, the wards, as well as our 5 branch health clinics. We went full speed with team steps, and again, opportunities to learn, certainly, but also to share best practices and to say what's working and what's not, and how we better communicating and sharing those so that we each learn from them. Some additional team steps initiatives, we have executive walk-rounds, and this is the commanding officer, Captain Schaefer, as well as the executive officer, Captain Sayers, and the executive steering council take opportunities to join the teams and just be a part at the deck plate. So leadership at the deck plate that's showing that engagement, that encouragement, and certainly the value added in knowing that leadership is an integral part of what we do each and every day for our patient safety and the team steps process. We do have annual refresher training, which no one should forget because it's a birth month, and so happy birthday, you have training, but also not so much the initial command orientation includes and incorporates the team steps, essentials and fundamentals. So right upon reporting to our hospital, team steps is right initially part of our training. And then annually we have refresher training. 1/3 of our staff rotates every year, so we do have some challenges where when we have the staff that's all trained up, we, just because of transfer and what we do in the military, we lose those individuals. So it's a constant training to sustain the team steps program. Some other related initiatives is the medical home port, of which we have 14 primary care manager-led teams. And again, the day-to-day of being in that clinic, and we all know in the clinic arena how things can just kind of, people come in, start the day, and not necessarily initially meet to discuss the day, to discuss the patients, to discuss what the plan would be, and to discuss any situations that would warrant, equipment, anything that needs to be prepared and ready for. Partnership for Patients is also another initiative that we have. Again, all incorporating the patient at the center and being really truly getting the essence of partnering with the patient so that patient knows you're a critical part of the team. As a matter of fact, you are the center and the focus of what we do each and every day. We have the team up where we, again, have guidelines, patient guidelines for what the patient actually needs to ask, empower the patient, bring the patient on, truly delve into this is about you. It is not about us. The HEDIS measures, which we look at population health, and we are talking health, so from healthcare to health, keeping our populations healthy, and bringing them again, giving them the responsibility, but also let them know that the focus really truly is that we want you to be healthier, and engaging them in that respect. The National Patient Safety Goal, again, in alignment with the Joint Commission, where we look at areas, again, that we see recurring, medication errors being one of those top, and how do we work to fix those issues. We have Patient Advisory Council, which the patients are obviously part of that team, secret shoppers, and Healthcare Resolution, which Ms. Silke is in the audience, and she does assist patients with keeping it at the lowest level, so investigating and finding out what's best for communicating effectively with the patient in terms of reaching our goals. And again, number one is the patient safety. And care and communication, which you will also hear again. So just really quick, here's our patient experience. We had a Iraq veteran requiring multiple surgeries, and this was after having already previous surgeries on a reconstructive ankle. The team got together, the surgeon, the anesthesiologist, the nurses, the doctors, the patient's family, all got together and truly had a collaborative approach, used the team steps process, used the briefs, used the huddles in order to get a plan of care, work with the patient, find out what the patient wanted, and truly meet those needs. So the patient now was an empowered member of the team, having an active role and active part in their health care. So again, it was patient-centric focus using the team steps process. This is Commander Mark Gould, one of our orthopedic surgeons who was a part of the team in performing the surgery. A truly, again, win-win situation in terms of successfully performing those surgeries. And the patient's comments or response was, I've had multiple surgeries on this ankle. This was the best experience ever. So truly that collaborative approach, bringing it all together where the patient felt like they were heard and they were part of the process each and every step of the way. And that's what we want to capture, is the essence of the patient having that role and having that walking away feeling, wow, I felt valued. I was part of the process. And Naval Hospital Jacksonville, we are Team Steps. This is our team at work, constantly coaching, sustaining the team steps, the communication piece being very critical, as was addressed earlier, and then getting the team to develop so that they understand the value of what we do and why it's so critical and integrating across the board. Thank you very much.
Galen, before you, I have one question for any of the Navy team that's been involved in the patient care and communication work. Clearly, the Team Steps has been a significant, part of your program for delivering care and safety. Question that I would have, if somebody could comment, is how did the care and communication work complement that, compete with it? Need to do both? Need to do one? Can you do one or the other? Just a question, if somebody could reflect on that. Anybody? Yeah.
Thank you. We're expanding it to allied health. We've already initiated a senior enlisted training course, and the key now is sustainment. Most of the people who take our course actually say, this is great, I wish I had this sooner, I want more of this. So we're actually continuing to expand the program and actually sustain that at every level, like we're doing with Team Steps with the work rounds. The senior leadership goes out on the deck plate level and makes sure Team Steps is happening, make sure it's improving on a daily basis, and that's kind of what we're trying to do with our care and communication.
So I'm just wanted to recognize a couple of team members here. Sandy Eugenio, who leads our communication and healthcare group, and Tim Devlantes, Tim over there, who's helping us with safety and quality issues at Mayo Clinic. I'm really their speech giver today. This is the reality that we face, and every day I go to work, the best part of the day is really about that relationship I have with the patient, but all this stuff comes in between what I do with my patient. And where we're ultimately trying to get is to that relationship-centered care, and all this quality and safety stuff ultimately falls in line with that in most of our opinions. We've had a long journey, though, at Mayo. It's been 9 years now that Bill Maple started for us. We've done 3 modules. You all know about the first module. That's the basic communication class that we teach with PEARLS, patient-centered care, listening skills, and more recently, mindfulness and presence. We then, after that rolled out to all allied health staff, all physicians, where we also rolled out diversity training as a second module, and we incorporated some of the principles of PEARLS into that diversity module. And then we started to get a little clever. We thought, well, this teamwork stuff is really important. And well, maybe we don't have to train every single person with the faculty. We tried a different rollout, a model, where we did this teamwork is real, which has some good data, good stuff in it. It's the SBAR, it's stop the line, it's a little clarity, all that good stuff. But the rollout was different, and I can talk about that a little later if you want me to, about what worked and what didn't work in terms of rolling this out to your institutions. And this really is the teamwork is real model. It incorporates the listening, the PEARLS, but it really hones in on safety communication, critical communication. And that is the SBAR and stop the line, positive assertion. This, in my opinion, and most of our opinions, didn't do as well as we would have liked because of the way we rolled it out. It was sort of teach the leader and let the leader go to his unit or her unit and teach it how they want it. And it really was, very prescriptive and, in our opinion, not very well done. So where are we at the present time? Well, all new physicians, all residents go through Module 1 and 2. We still regard that as the basis of developing this type of cultural change. All new allied health staff get some of the Module 1 and 2 stuff in a new employee orientation. But where we are now today is really this commitment to safety program, and I'll delve into that in a little bit later here. That's really teamwork, breaking down the whole institution into teams and teaching team behaviors, cultural change, etc. within those teams. Another avenue is coaching. A lot of, some people will fail. And in a learner-centered environment, in a fair and just culture, we have to have mechanisms to allow those people to be successful. We all heard from Dr. Leonard, these are highly functioning people 99.9% of the time. Something is going wrong for the system or them or an event or an error. We have to have the systems in place for both the institution but also for the individual. And that's where coaching comes into play. And the future revolves around the commitment to safety. And when we talk about commitment to safety, we're really talking about team-based training. You saw what Dr. Leonard was talking about. It's very similar. There has to be a cultural shift. This is from leadership. We have to instill a fair and just culture, and we have to educate the whole institution about what fair and just means. Then we have to impart upon them sort of team behaviors, handoffs, debriefs, post-briefs, pre-briefs, the critical language, all that team behavior, those are mechanisms. That's the nuts and bolts of how the team will communicate with each other. But then we have to let them do some self-reflection, self-assessment, and that's the learning process. All the teams that are going through this process now will ultimately develop their own learning board with aim statements, PDSA cycles, plan, do, study and act cycles to effect change within their teamwork. And there'll be longitudinal assessment of their outcomes. This is undergoing some change because the communication and healthcare group wasn't initially involved in the teamwork rollout. We've become intimately involved now, so it's taking on more of a communication flair, which I think most of us like. I think that's the crux. That's that relationship-centered teamwork that we want to get to. This is not another checkoff that we want to get through. We've done that checkoff already with teamwork, and we felt that it wasn't really successful with that. Teamwork is real. So we're getting a redo. We're getting a do-over here. And so this has to be very well thought out, and so we've taken a little bit of a back step. We're looking at the curriculum a little bit, how we're teaching it, and so we're pretty hopeful for the future with this commitment to safety work, that it will really steer us in the right direction. Coaching? Coaching is fun. It's simulation-based, or it can even be real-time. It can be one-on-one. We're about to roll it out to a whole division. It revolves around patients, surprise, surprise, relationship-centered, and as we all heard, that majority of the time is where the errors occur or where outcomes are affected. We're working on new curriculum and faculty development. We're trying to get 2 new faculty onto the staff of the Communication and Healthcare Group. From a surgical perspective, where are we? Well, we've done all these 3 modules. A lot of this commitment to safety training is being rolled out in the surgical environment first and foremost. A lot of the teams there need a lot of work in the ORs. First floor surgery, which is our outpatient surgery center, is about to go through it. The behaviors that we look at, you heard about checklists, pre-briefs, debriefs, huddles, timeouts. As far as reporting, Mayo set up a Mayo Collaborative with Rochester, Arizona, our health system and us, and started voluntarily reporting all data to NSQIP some years ago now, and so we're getting feedback from that data. We are able to compare between sites on how we're doing with our data. We've also sent all our surgical data into the Florida Surgical Care Initiative, which looks at four of the outcomes that NSQIP looks at. But again, there is some comparative data that we are hopeful will help us, guide us in the next direction. But a lot of the stuff we at the beginning decided to voluntarily report so that we could get feedback for ourselves. Really, this wasn't just sort of a step because we thought the right thing was really to see how we were doing, and this was the best way we could do that. What are the challenges? Well, we had change in leadership within our communication group, and I'll recognize Bill for setting us on this path that we're on. We've had changes in faculty. We lost West up to a group up in North Carolina. But there are a lot of other institutional priorities. There are tons of institutional priorities. If there's not a day that goes by that I don't hear about plastic surgery targets or all this stuff. And that's the noise that this work needs to separate itself from, because all that stuff will take care of itself if we take care of this relationship-centered piece. New data, that's been a challenge. We moved from PRC to Avatar, so now our comparatives are off. while we're getting used to the new system. So that's been a bit of a challenge. Time and money, like everything, we need more time and more money to do this. The strengths, I believe in our institutional strength. It fundamentally, generally, has its heart in the right place. We have a fantastic simulation center that we haven't leveraged enough for this type of work. We have a key driver in Terry, who does a lot of this and pushes us hard. And our faculty have been absolutely resilient through lots of change. And again, we do get some time and we do have some money, so we can be thankful for that. We have a great team. Finally, are we getting there? Well, these are our scores up to 2012, and they're not bad. The black bar, the black graph is percent rank, inpatient percent rank. It's up to 96%. That's our ranking. But there's room to improve. We're doing well, but there's room to improve. But the trends are encouraging. This is the type of stuff that I need personally to see some change, because otherwise it can get soul destroying. As far as perception of level of safety, again, the trend is in the right direction. And I think, again, this just reinforces that this is critical work for all of us to do. A quick story. 2 weeks ago, I'm about to do a procedure on a patient, a patient with a lot of weight loss, a lot of extra skin. We're going to cut off all the skin, case, a lot of fluid shifts during the case. We have a pad on her buttock, and we're taking her back to surgery, and I realized, well, I've got a mark back there, so I take the pad off, can't use the pad. We're about to prep the patient, patient's in prone, and I'm going out to scrub. The scrub tech says, hey, doc, look at all this bruising. And so I go look at the buttock, and right where we'd pulled off the tape, there's all this petechial bleeding. And so I turn to the anesthesiologist and say, what do you think of this? He says, well, Galen, you better be a little, does she have a bleeding problem? So I said, I don't know, platelet count's normal, all that stuff. So I go out to, that was the CRNA. I go out to the anesthesiologist and I say, hey, Tim, what do you think? And he says, Galen, it's an elective procedure, think about it. So I go back to the room, I speak to the nurses, and I say, guys, did you see this before, when you checked the patient in? They said, no, this is new, this is new. And the one nurse says to me, when we turned the patient to prep the patient around the side of the hip, I noticed there was a little bit of bruising from my hand. And so clearly we canceled the patient. But I don't know if we're getting there, but I was encouraged that scrub tech with the year of training voiced something to me. It was something. And if that's a step in the right direction, I'll take it. I'll take that. So this seems insurmountable at times. This really does. This is like a black hole, and we sort of voyage forward in the hope that we may get there one day. But I like Shrek. He had a defined target, and that was to get his swamp back. And that's what I see us. We just want to get that relationship-centered care back. So when I leave at the end of the day, I'm a happier guy. But at the end of his journey, he ended up with so much more than the swamp. He ended up with a princess. So maybe, just maybe, if we go ahead with this relationship-centered care and keep working it and believe in it, just maybe those quality issues, those safety issues, those satisfaction scores, that patient satisfaction scores will just be a figment of our imagination and a thing of the past. So thanks very much.
Any question for Dr. Perdikis while we're switching speakers? Okay, thanks. Paul?
Good morning. First of all, I'd like to thank Galen for this is the first time I've had Shrek brought up as an objective in healthcare reform. So I'm going to talk briefly about the Nemours experience and some things we're trying to do a bit differently. The first thing I'd like to point out is, to me, the greatest value of the caring communication was the fact that all the other junk we hear about, productivity and budgets and Press-Ganey and, nobody talks much about what happens in the most critical part of the clinical encounter, which is the clinician with the patient and or family in the room. And this is one of those rare things that actually focuses on the most important part of the whole structure. And one of the problems that I have to deal with all the time is the perception that all we talk about is productivity and budgets and targets and all this other junk, and none of the really important stuff. And one of our priorities, or my priorities at least, is that, yeah, we got to deal with all that stuff. It's reality. That's what we need to deal with so we can do the important stuff. But let's talk about the important stuff. And this is clearly part of the important stuff. We've tried to expand we've effectively expanded our program from beyond Jacksonville. So about a year and a half ago, a group from Delaware, where we had, with Nemours has as part of its service line, the Alfred I. DuPont Hospital for Children, which is a large pediatric children's facility. And 6 of their people came down and went through the training, and they've now trained all of their residents and about 200 faculty. So it's become a core part of what we're trying to do. We're expecting it to expand into our new hospital in Orlando, but they've gone through all kinds of startup processes. So I think it's been very well received, and it's an ongoing part of what they do for their residents and their new faculty. And for us, we would try very much to do. Every institution is doing so many different things. You know, we all have these initiatives where we have a behaviors approach, and we have the caring communication, and we're going through continuous improvement, and everybody's doing all these things. How do you make sure it's not just a bunch of little things and try to create a coherent message out of all of it? And quite frankly, I think all of it actually fits rather well. You just have to explain to people that it is a coherent whole with different areas of focus. It's not just isolated stuff. The second part that we've really tried to do is to try to think about, in a pediatric setting, how do you deal with the child at various developmental levels and the family aspects? So to use a pretty rugged kind of example, so if somebody's going through an ugly divorce and they see an internist, and as an adult they may not bring the spouse they can't be in the same room with. But when it's the kid, they're both there. And we have some wonderful interactions. And how do you really deal with all of that stuff? It's a separate set of issues, very much the developmental level of the child, but also the family issues that are so paramount. So, and as part of that effort, Peggy, could you just raise your hand or something? This Peggy Greco is a clinical psychologist in Nemours, and she's now spending about 20% of her time as a coach. And I'll tell you where the story comes from. About a year and a half ago, we had a junior faculty person who's very highly motivated, very well trained, and socially awkward is a good. And the problem we were getting on Press Ganey, which is a 1 to 5 scale for stuff, and different places to use different scales, but that's a pretty classic one. He was getting 25% of his scores as 1s, primarily 1s, and some 2s. And people were writing in things that were just hideous. And it was, as one of his supervisors, it was hard to look at because it's my responsibility that the department does well on these things. And for him, it was really beating him up. So for whatever reason, I'd been reading some stuff about behavioral counseling and training for autistic kids. And I had this stupid idea, which is, well, if you can teach autistic kids to do this, what could you do for a very bright, well-educated, highly motivated adult? Couldn't you teach them to do better? So I called Peggy, who knows a lot about this stuff, and I said, okay, I've got this really stupid idea. And in part, Peggy had volunteered over time to get more involved in helping coach people in different kinds of ways. And she said, well, no, I think we could do this. So she started working with this individual, and within a couple months, the 1s have disappeared 100%. It's been about more than a year since there's been a nasty comment, and his scores have increased very considerably. Are they the strongest in the institution? No, but they're really okay. And he feels much better, and it works much better. So she's been actively doing shadowing and coaching, shadowing clinicians, and it's in a very standardized way with a sort of a pre-study and you go in with a patient is sort of a classic thing. This is the stuff you're going to work on in this visit. You walk out. This is what you did well. This is what I'd like you to focus on the next time. And it's really based on the adult models of learning. It's been terrific as a psychologist, and I think Peggy's done a particularly great job. She knows us. She knows our culture. She's a psychologist, so if it's if it's a hem-onc person like me, did you order the right test? No. She does, that's not the question. How did you do with this behavioral stuff? She's now doing it with larger groups. And I think this is going to, it's in some ways could be viewed as, many of you probably read Atul Gawande's article in the New Yorker in October 2011 as a surgeon using a coach, and it was much more in the technical skills of being a surgeon. This is much more on the behavioral skills. It's going really quite well, and we think it's, as an investment, the return on the institutional investment has been really terrific. And we can see this with our scores. And we can see it with particularly individuals who are struggling. So I think that's an area that this individual coaching may really have a future. So, thank you. And please, if you've got questions for Peggy, she knows this stuff far better than I.
Any questions for Dr. Patel? One question for the institutions that have been at this a while. It seems like it's a natural drive to go from the more system-wide communication training to coaching, and how did that evolve? Was it a natural evolution? And just curious if anybody had any comments about that in the audience or here. Terry, I see you.
One orthopedic surgeon who called me to his office, and after getting his data, and he said, Terry, he had his pearls card. I've been doing my pearls. Help me. And I think Sandy recently coached somebody, same thing. He used the pearls like a robot. It was beautiful. I mean, he was doing it, but then we coached him. Okay, great, you're using the pearls. Let's shadow. We get at the behaviors a little bit deeper. It's just a deeper dive. I think we lay I know. We lay the foundation with the basic communication course, Pearls, and they go out and try it, and when they get their data and they see a little bit improvement but not quite where they want to be, then they ask us to come and coach. And the important thing that we do, because we use the basic communication course as a cultural piece of relationship centeredness, we refer back to them when we do our coaching so that there's a thread. We don't, try not to introduce new things. If we have to, we do, but we take them back to the basics. Listening, are you listening? Are you addressing emotions and dealing with it, which is what Pearls is aimed at. So there you go.
Yeah, Jamie.
Part of the way we actually established the need for a coaching mentoring program, which we actually asked the Mayo folks to help us with. But through our evolution and sustainment, the biggest part, I think, was actually we gave our board of directors or our leadership of the command the actual course. So instead of actually telling us what they did, they actually went through the course, and then they were a little bit more engaged. And then we started identified my wife, who's the coach mentor that we've established, she started getting actual referrals from the leadership, having had taken the course. Hey, this person is identified, has taken the course, but is still a problem communicator. Let's refer to Meg, who's our coach mentor, who's actually now taking it a step further. So I think that helped us.
I think there are people who are going to go through the course and get it, and many of them are actually pretty good to start with, and you're giving them some tools and areas to focus. That's not going to apply to everybody. The other thing, of course, is that very much related to the whole concept of teams. There are teams that are more supportive of this enhanced communication and doing better, and there are teams that are not going to be supportive and in fact may make it more difficult. And you need to get there and observe what's truly going on. You can't make assumptions.
Susan.
Yeah, I'm just curious, for those of you who've done coaching, how do you keep that from feeling punitive to the individual?
So the question is how, for those of you who have done coaching, how do you keep that from feeling punitive? We've got Sandy, and I don't know if Peggy, if you wanted to comment about it as well. But
I'm Sandy Argenio from Mayo. We've done some coaching. Most of the people have been very appreciative. Most people want to do well, and when they see that their scores aren't very good, or if they've gotten some letters, they're concerned. And even if they're a little bit resistant, it's all part of creating a safe environment, which is a big part of all the training courses. So the people doing the coaching have to set that up front, that this is a safe environment, it's not punitive, we want to help you grow. And like Dr. Patel said, some specific objectives. This is what we're going to work on today, their objectives, and then moving forward, being specific. And so far, we haven't had anybody that didn't want to do it. Maybe a little bit the first minute or two of the conversation, but most people have been happy to have that ability to work on themselves.
okay, I see a couple. We'll take one more question, and then I think Peggy and
Somebody in the back.
It's somebody in the back too. We're going to have a chance to have a panel discussion, and some of these questions can be raised then. So Peggy.
Just to add to what Sandy said, definitely having a culture of teamwork, working together, identifying goals, identifying steps to reach those goals. But there are also a percentage of providers, in my case, that were identified as needing assistance and not necessarily desiring or asking for that assistance. And there's a couple of things that I found that were crucial to really building a working relationship. One was confidentiality. So the administrator may know that there's a coaching process ongoing. They may know that we're working on specific goals, but the details were confidential between myself and the provider. That led to much more of a working relationship within which they felt freer to both be themselves, be comfortable, talk about doubts, fears, et cetera. So I think that's probably a key thing for those providers who are not self-identified.
Thanks. I think somebody did have a mic back. Yeah.
I've got a quick question, and maybe it's not appropriate, but I think what Dr. Cobble's done here is phenomenal. And I don't practice anymore, but I was in sports medicine, so when I hear the word coach, it resonates with me. Where I struggle is where we are in medicine. You're addressing these phenomenal issues, but it's hard to get patients in to be seen by physicians that spend time with them, because even though we say these are irrelevant or it's noise, but we're developing assembly lines because of the economics of medicine. Not every institution, not every physician, but that's the reality that I see.
So I'll just give a very quick remark to that, and then we can maybe come back to a few of these themes for the panel discussion. But I think the idea is behind this work is to realize that there are time constraints and there are economic pressures, but they're not going to go away. And how are we going to really give the skills to all of our clinical team to really navigate through those in a way that is professionally rewarding, both to our doctors and to our patients. And the data suggests is that you can spend no more time than you're spending right now in that assembly line feeling, if you're feeling that, and you can come out with a much better experience. So that's one of the jobs that we really need to do. So, thanks.
Good morning. I'm going to be quick here because I know I'm the one between you and that critical bathroom break. So, the person who's really been leading this effort at University of Florida College of Medicine, Jacksonville, is Guy Ben-Ruby, who couldn't be here today. He's traveling. So if you have any questions, I can give you his email. So let me start by saying what our experience was before we started this. And I think, like happens in many institutions, University of Florida, of course, we are all employed physicians. So like the Navy, we got the order from Admiral Nuss that's going to happen. So it was a mandatory training for all of our staff, and so most individuals really went along really not caring one way or the other. It was something they had to do, just that they had to do compliance training and other trainings that we do. Many felt that they have been in practice for decades and years and really did not need this training and thought it was a waste of their time. And some were truly unhappy and that they had to do another mandatory training and they didn't need it, and let us know at the trainings that what they thought of us and the training itself. But a few were really excited about it and thought that the training could be helpful to them. And in fact, I think you would think that they could maybe younger physicians. No, there were some very experienced physicians who were also very excited about this training. What's interesting is that after the training, most participants saw training was helpful, and this was really indicated in the evaluations that we got and the very positive comments that we got. And some of the faculty who were perhaps initially not happy and upset about having to do these training, really we heard from several of the trainers, they came to us and said this was really very helpful. They thought there were things they learned and that they really, some of them sort of championed that. And so I think that was a good transformation that made all of us very delighted. And many of us got the feedback after the training that they had been using some or few of those things, the toolkit that they got at the training, and so they felt that it was a time well spent. And pearls seemed to be the most popular of the parts of the training that we had given, and I think partly because those of us who were teenagers could use with them also. As I said, it was an executive decision for the from the leadership that we need to participate and train all the faculty. It was mandatory. And most faculty were given time off their clinical duty, so clinics could be canceled because they were coming to the training. But I would submit that we were not given any breaks in our budgets. We still had to meet our budget targets. So somebody who mentioned about money, I think one of my former chairs, Harvey Colton, he passed away a few years ago, had a saying. He said, there are many questions, the answer is always money. So what he meant was he was talking about research. Actually, you have enough money, you can answer the question. So I think that was a reality of what we had to deal with. So what we had at the University of Florida College of Medicine in Jacksonville, we had 8 people who were trained, including myself and 2 other trainers that here I see, Dr. Sheikh Ali on the other on my right, and Dr. Berger here on the left, we call Dr. Berger the Pearl King. He usually delivered the Pearl sessions. And this was done in October, November of 2010. We had 4 senior and 4 junior faculty members who would participate. And I think that was a very good thing that, I don't know if it was by chance or intentionally, but I think that combination was really very helpful. And we started by training the senior leadership of the College of Medicine and Shands at that time. Also, we trained some of the contracted physicians who were not part of the faculty because we felt it's important that all the staff working with us get the training. And it's not only that, I think we also trained some of the Baptist physicians in preparation with a lot of, and you'll hear about that from Corey Meyer. She was really pushing that, she was the engine, or pulling, I should say, trying to get that at Baptist Health. As they say, we are in it for it good. What's the new slogan, Corey? It's for good. So I think we worked with them, and they were, I think, went away from those sessions with a very positive feeling about it. At the College of Medicine, there were some departments who included all their trainees. One department particularly, the OMFS group, they closed their basically department that morning, and they wanted everybody who worked there, all clinicians, to be trained, and I think we did that and was well received. We trained the chief residents. And then what we did this would be a 3rd year, but 2 years ago, I guess, we started training all the incoming residents during their orientation. Orientation, as most of you know, is a very busy time. I see Connie Hahn there. With her good support, we were able to get the residents training. It's a 2-hour abbreviated training, and it's quite well received, actually. I think the residents like it. The evaluations are good. And this year, later in June, 3rd year, we'll be doing that. And I think we want to continue to do that. And I would be very interested in talking to Galen about, you have some modules that perhaps we could take something from there and use it for our 2-hour abbreviated training for the residents. We always want to talk about outcomes and the future plans. in terms of the symposia and the training, the evaluation from the participants were always in the excellent range, and the comments were by and large positive. There was still that one person who, as I said, let us know what they thought about us. I talked to Guy about what was the patient satisfaction. His comment was there has been an uptake on that. We have not done it in as organized a manner perhaps, but there are other initiatives at the health system that are also being placed at the same time that may have some effect. So I cannot tell you that there was a direct causal relationship from this training and the uptake in patient satisfaction.